The next time you feel that white-hot flash of anger, you have a choice. Most people think the choice is between reacting and suppressing, between lashing out and bottling it up. Both paths lead to ruin. There is a third way, an ancient technique that promises to dissolve rage in 90 seconds. Where do you stand? By the end of this, you might change your mind. The Stoic philosophers, particularly Seneca, saw anger as a temporary madness, a poison. Their solution was brutally simple: postponement. When you feel the heat rising, the jaw clenching, the blood pounding in your ears, wait. Create a delay. Give reason a chance to enter the room before impulse kicks down the door. In this pause, you subject the anger to a cross-examination. You ask it questions. Is the injury as great as it appears? Was the offense intentional or just a mistake? Is my reaction proportionate to the event? Will this matter in a day, a week, a year? This is the core of the technique, a forced pause for diagnosis. The argument for this is compelling. Imagine you're driving to an important meeting. Someone cuts you off, forcing you to slam on your brakes. The initial impulse is pure rage. You want to lean on the horn, tailgate them, scream at them through the glass. Your body is flooded with adrenaline. Now, apply the pause. For 90 seconds, you do nothing. You just breathe and ask the questions. Was it malicious? Maybe. Or maybe they were rushing to the hospital. Maybe they just made a clumsy error. What does raging at them achieve? It raises your blood pressure. It ruins your focus for the meeting. It risks an accident. It gives a stranger rent-free space in your head for the rest of the day. After 90 seconds of this internal audit, the anger has less fuel. The fire dies down. You arrive at your meeting calm and in control. You chose your response instead of letting an animal instinct choose for you. This is emotional sovereignty. It's the difference between being the master of your mind and a slave to your chemistry. In a workplace, it's the manager who receives a blistering email and waits a day to reply. The response they eventually send is calm, strategic, and effective. The response they almost sent would have ended a career. In a relationship, it's the partner who feels a flash of jealousy or betrayal, but pauses. They ask themselves, what is the evidence? What is the story I'm telling myself? Is there another way to see this? That pause is the space where trust is rebuilt, where misunderstandings are clarified instead of escalating into war. Every time you use this technique, you strengthen a mental muscle. You are literally rewiring your brain to favor reason over reaction. It feels like a superpower because it is. You are no longer at the mercy of external events. You decide what they mean. That sounds like perfect self-control, a life without regret. But there's a problem with this pristine, logical world. What if your anger is trying to tell you something important? What if it's a signal you desperately need to hear? Consider the other side. Anger is a form of energy. It's a bright, hot, powerful signal that a boundary has been violated, a value has been trampled, an injustice has occurred. When you consistently pause, diagnose, and dissipate that anger, what are you doing? Are you achieving wisdom? Are you teaching yourself to tolerate the intolerable? Imagine a person in an emotionally abusive relationship. Their partner constantly belittles them, dismisses their feelings, and subtly controls their life. Each incident creates a flash of anger. It's a flare going up from a part of their soul, screaming, "This is wrong. Get out." If that person applies the Stoic technique every single time, what happens? They ask, did they mean it? Maybe they're just stressed. Am I overreacting? Maybe I'm too sensitive. The technique, designed to grant wisdom, becomes a tool for self-gaslighting. The flare is extinguished. The boundary is eroded a little further. The person learns passivity. They use logic to explain away the very feeling that was trying to save them. The truth, as usual, is more complicated than either side admits. To view all anger as a toxic poison is to rob yourself of a vital tool for survival and change. Nearly every major leap forward for civil rights was fueled by righteous anger. The anger of people who were told to be patient, to wait, to see things from the other side. Their anger was a clarifying force. It burned away the excuses and the rationalizations and exposed a raw, undeniable injustice. If Rosa Parks had paused for 90 seconds to question her anger, to see it from the bus driver's perspective, to ask if it was proportionate, She might have just moved to the back of the bus. Her anger was information. It was fuel. It was necessary. Does this mean every flash of road rage is a noble call to justice? Of course it does not. And that's the core tension. This logic breaks down the moment you apply it universally. The man screaming at a teenage barista over a coffee order feels his anger is just as valid as the activist protesting a corrupt law. His body is producing the same chemicals. His mind is telling him a boundary was crossed. How do we tell the difference between destructive rage and constructive indignation? And who gets to decide? The Stoics believe that you, the rational individual, get to decide. And that is the point that many critics miss. The 90-second pause is a filter. Its purpose is to separate the signal from the noise. The Stoic technique is a diagnostic tool, an emotional triage. During that 90-second pause, you aren't just asking questions to diffuse the anger. You are asking questions to understand it. You are asking, is this anger about my ego, or is it about a principle? Ego-driven anger is about you. I was disrespected. My time was wasted. My status was challenged. It's a defense of a fragile self. Principle-driven anger is about something larger. This is unfair. This is cruel. This behavior should not be allowed to stand. The first kind of anger is almost always poison. It leads to feuds, resentment, and violence. The second kind of anger, once filtered through reason, becomes courage. It becomes the fuel for difficult conversations, for setting firm boundaries, for changing the world. Think of it like a nuclear reactor. Raw, uncontrolled anger is a meltdown. It's destructive, chaotic, and leaves a trail of contamination. Suppressing it entirely is like shutting the reactor down. It's safe, but it produces no power. The Stoic technique is the control rod. It lets you manage the reaction. It allows you to harness the immense power of that emotion, to cool it down just enough so it can be used for productive work instead of causing a catastrophe. The goal is to transform the raw heat of emotion into the focused light of deliberate action. You feel the anger, you honor it as a signal, but you refuse to let it be the master. You use the pause to decide. Does this situation require me to calmly dismantle an injustice? Or does it require me to recognize that my ego is bruised, take a deep breath, and let it go? And yet, this puts an enormous burden on the individual. It assumes you have the clarity in a moment of intense emotional arousal to be a perfect impartial judge of your own feelings. What if your principles are just well-disguised ego? What if your sense of injustice is just a distorted perception? The technique relies on a level of self-awareness that few people possess, especially when they are seeing red. It's easy to fool yourself into believing your road rage is a righteous stand against the decline of civic driving standards. It feels much better than admitting you're just an impatient person with an ego problem. And here we find the final, hidden risk. The technique can become the ultimate tool for sophisticated self-deception, allowing us to cloak our ugliest impulses in the noble language of reason and justice. We think we're being stoic. We're just building a better justification for being a jerk. So, what do you think? The 90-second pause offers a moment of choice, a space between stimulus and response, where freedom lives. It's a tool to prevent you from being a puppet of your own impulses. But what you do in that space defines everything. Is anger a bug in your system to be patched with logic? Or is it a core feature you need to learn how to use? Where do you draw the line between emotional mastery and self-betrayal?